Right, hello. I'm going to show you how I've managed to set up an integration between Unity and Visual Studio on the Mac. I'm using VMware Fusion to run my Visual Studio 2010. And one thing the Windows users have had, which is really nice, is a really solid Visual Studio integration in Unity. So you can click files and they open in Visual Studio. You can click scripts in the inspector and they'll open in Visual Studio. Okay, and now you can do all that with the Mac, thanks to this little method I found, which just uses a couple of helper apps, one on each side, to pass the data between each other. Right, what I've done now is I've just removed all elements of my integration here. So now if I double click, it just does the default thing, which is open Unitron. So Visual Studio sits completely isolated in my virtual machine. So first thing, you need to set up sharing on your virtual machine. I don't know how this would work in Parallels because I've never used it, but in VMware I simply added folders for wherever I usually have Unity projects. So I sometimes keep projects in Documents, sometimes in Dropbox. So you create a one-to-one naming system between your Mac folders and your shared folders. Now, this is something separate, don't worry about the mirrored folders. It doesn't matter if you use mirroring or not, you still need to do this one-to-one mapping for wherever you have Unity projects. Now what that does is it makes a Z drive on your virtual machine, and in there you'll have all your shared folders. They link straight to the Mac folders, which is great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make two applications, one on the Mac and one on the PC, and they're going to talk to each other and allow us to have this integration. So the first one we'll make on the PC. It's very simple, just a batch file we're going to make. I'm going to put it in just C, because it's the simplest way to find it, really. So we're going to call this vsrun.bat. Seems like a good name, and all we need in here is the word start followed by 2 speech marks and then %1. Okay, we can save that, and that's almost done. Although if you run that, you'll notice it comes up with a command prompt. That's standard behavior for batch files in Windows. So I found this tool called bat to Exe Converter. You can find it here. I'll post the link in the description. But basically, it's free and it turns the batch files into executables, and you can also make them hidden, so no windows show up. But there's a lot of apps out there that do exactly the same thing and they charge money, but this one is free and it's clean, so I'll put the link in the description. So I'll run this and I will put our vsrun.bat file through it, tick invisible, everything else is fine, and press compile. Right, that's done. So now we've got an exe. Okay, it still pops up with a command prompt, but that's because it doesn't do anything. Once it's actually got an input, it should be invisible. Right, so one thing you might not know about VMware if you use it, and I'm sure Parallels has a similar feature, I would have thought it would, is in your virtual machine file. This is like the whole VM in one file. There is an applications folder. If you right click it, you can go show package contents and you'll see an applications folder, and this shows you every application that's in the start menu or anything that it's scanned or been used. So these are all now, we can use these, we can access these from the Mac. So vsrun's already there, that's from a previous attempt at this video, so ignore that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a shortcut to this executable in the start menu of the VM. So there's one there already, that's old. Copy this in, create shortcut, and that should appear. What we can also do is there is an application setting here. We can actually add it here if we want, just to be sure that it's going to appear in that list. It's really not necessary. This is just for the application toolbar, which appears up here, but I don't actually use that, so I'll turn that off. But I know that just makes the applications folder in the VM refresh. So let's go to our VM again. Right click, show package, applications, VS, so it's called VS Run. There it is, right, today, 20%, good, that's this one. So I'm going to create a copy of that in my Mac applications folder, because then it's easy to reference in Unity. It's got some stupid name because it includes the name of the VM after it. So I'm just going to rename it vsrun.app. Lovely, so there it is, that just sits there quietly and does nothing. And all it does is if I click on that, it will link to the VM and run the file, which is awesome. So that's the PC side done. Now we've just got to handle the Mac side, so we're going to use the Apple script editor to make a really simple application in the Mac. So on open input file. If you've never used Apple script before, this will probably look really weird because it's a very verbose language. Then that tries to make everything human readable. I think it's actually quite powerful under the hood, really. This is my first experience with it, but it was fairly easy to pick up. Saying that though, this will probably break. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making it, I'm just making it on an open file. So if you open this application with an input file, then just check it's not null. Convert it to a POSIX path, which is a path with slashes rather than colons, and then run the shell script to open the application that we've created with this new file name as a parameter. So that should compile. Let's see. Probably missed something. Yeah, it's generally fairly verbose. Just missed an end. Okay, good. So now we're going to create an app. I'm just going to call it VS Open and put it in the Unity folder. Type of application. You need it to stay open, otherwise for some reason it doesn't work. But it's okay, it's only a tiny application, so it's not really going to affect your performance at all. Everything else you can leave off. Save in Unity folder, and now within Unity we can set the external script editor and the preferences to use that application that we've created. VS Open. Okay, now with any luck, opening one of these should hopefully launch the file in Visual Studio, and there it is. Pretty good. So let's try another one. Moving blob. Alright. So that's the grunt work done. There's a couple of things that you need to know though. One thing that's probably noticeable is the VS Open is always open, and means it has its own icon there, it has its own icon in the dock. And this can be, a little bit pointless for something that is basically just opening a file in another app. So what I tend to do is open the package contents of VS Open that's in the Unity folder. Go to the info plist, and we can add a key, a special key called LSUI element. When we press enter, it will change to application is agent with a checkbox. Check it and close that. And now that makes that into a hidden app. It just runs behind the scenes. So now when we double click, you don't see anything on the Mac side, you don't see anything on the PC side, it just opens beautifully. It's not there, and it's not there. But it is running still. If you check the activity monitor, you'll see VS Open is there. Okay, so if for some reason it is massively leaking memory or something, you can go and quit it in the activity monitor. But I'm not worried about that. Okay. Now the other thing is there's an important distinction between using the network path to your Unity project and using the path with the virtual drive, which is Z. Although you can get everywhere with Z, I can get to my downloads, my documents, everything that I set up in the shared. If I open a Unity project here, when I open a file in Unity, it won't link it to the solution, because it's actually the file coming in from the Mac is using the network path. So just make sure you open your project with the entire network. You can go through VM shared folders there. I'll just show you that. So as long as I go shared folders on VMware host instead of Z, then everything will work fine. Okay. If you need to set up the Visual Studio solution, you can still use the sync mono develop project in Unity to do that. That will create your solution file and your project file, and then you can just open those here, and then everything will behave as you want it to. So yeah, now I can double click files in the hierarchy and in the inspector, and everything works nice. Anyway, that'll do for now. See ya.